Welcome back to the Speaking and Communicating podcast. I am your host, Roberta Nzela. If you are looking to improve your communication skills, both professionally and personally, this is the podcast you should be tuning into. Communication and soft skills are crucial for your career growth and leadership development. And by the end of this episode, please log on to Apple and Spotify and leave us a rating and a review. Now let's get communicating with our guest today, Siena Dean. She is a career strategist, a talent development expert, and a senior alumni engagement manager at a nonprofit. She has helped over 500 professionals with their career goals, with defining their purpose, and so much more. And before I go any further, please help me welcome her to the show. Hi, Siena.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
And I'm glad that you're here. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Of
Of
all
course.
the careers you could have chosen, why help people with their careers?
Yes, and great question. So for me, it started with I had so many questions about my own career, and I led me on this path of trying to figure out, okay, how can I figure out this thing called, navigating career success and trying to make the best of the time that I had in corporate America and things of that nature. And in doing so, I realized a lot of people had the same questions. And I am all about pulling people along as you move forward. And so the more answers I received, I realized I love helping people just as much as I love gaining those answers. And
Mhm.
so once I found an organization where I can not only pour into myself, but pour into others, I had perfect mission alignment. And I was just like, yeah, I learn every day. And I then get to share those lessons with like minded individuals.
Yeah, and we will talk about alignment during this conversation. So you were in corporate America. Where were you working? Which industry were you in?
Yeah, so I was in clean energy. And so my mission always led me to be very purposeful, wanting to give back. But then, you graduate undergrad and you want to change the world, but you have no idea on how to do it. And I was
Right.
like, I know I want to help people. So let me try in as many ways as possible to help people. And so try the clean energy thing, which is very important. But it wasn't this lane for me.
Mhm.
And then, before pivoting into something new, I really started pouring into myself, learning a lot about the power of communication, self advocacy, confidence. And I was like, these are really important tools that shaped my career trajectory more than anything else that I've done, and I'm happy to talk about that later on.
Yes.
Um, and so I wanted to be very intentional in the next role that I had, that one, it allowed me to continue to work on those skills, but
Mhm.
also to be able to help others realize the power of soft skills because
That's what we talk about on the show. The soft skills and the communication skills. When you say that you made the decision to work on those skills, was that something that somebody brought to your attention, or what made you come to the realization that, wait a minute, outside of just college, outside of just work, this is something that I need to work on personally?
Yeah, it's interesting. My mom was in sales pretty much my entire life. And so from a very young age, she taught me how to turn it on, right? And so some people might know you show different parts of yourself depending on your environment. And from a
Right.
very young age, I learned those different parts of myself. And so as a child, I was not that good at turning the various parts of me on. I was horrible at sales. She was like, go sell so and so. I'm like, oh. Um, but it instilled in me in a very young age the desire for those skill sets. So I would always, even in school, I would always try to figure out, okay, how can I take one step further to build my confidence? How could I take one step further to advance my communication skills? And that led me to, now that I am ready to really buckle down and focus on career,
Mhm.
what's like not only like things can I read, but courses can I take? to make sure that I was as prepared as possible. So it started with my mom, and then that seed just continued to grow to where it is today.
That is absolutely amazing, which then brings me to my next question. So, when you help these professionals with their careers, do they find that it's general knowledge that, hey, wait a minute, in addition to what I was trained in at college or university, I need to also work on these soft skills personally?
Absolutely. You know, my organization tends to work with the most talented individuals. So they
Mhm.
have the book smarts, they have the industry expertise, but where they have trouble excelling, where they find themselves stuck at middle management for years, it's because they don't know how to tell their story. And that's really where we
Mm,
step in and say, okay, you know how to do the work, but how do you
right.
talk about how you do the work? How do you get comfortable sharing that story with others? What points do you point out? And as anywhere from preparing their evaluations all the way to making their pitch for promotion or just their impact report throughout their organization. Does anyone know your name? All of those things is where we focus on building more of a round package for our alums.
Let's talk about telling your story because
Mm.
I've had guests in the past who talk about how, especially if you look at somebody's LinkedIn profile, they'll
Mm.
say, worked at General Motors and I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that. They say, that's not how you're supposed to write that.
Right. Yeah.
Talk about the impact that you had in doing your work. The
Mm.
previous year, the sales were 500,000, and now they're $1 million because this is the initiative that I took, or this is the recommendation I made to my leader. And when we did it as a, you know what I mean? That
Right. Absolutely.
people don't know because we grew up with just this thing of, oh, I worked here and I did one and two and three and four.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, no, are touching on such an important point. And how I have the people that I work with think about this is if you were just having a conversation with someone, we've all been in those conversations when someone like it's hard to stay connected in the conversation because it all becomes monotone. I did this and then I did this. Like take them on a journey. You can still do that in written word, right? And so the more details of start where the company began, what you did to implement that change, and then what was that outcome. So, when people look at your LinkedIn, they should still feel a part of what you accomplished. And it doesn't take, a large paragraph, but what are those key bullets where they can start to paint that picture of saying, oh, okay, I see how this individual went from point A to point B. And it's really about outlining that journey that makes
Mhm.
all the difference.
Right, because that's the first part in selling yourself. And then the second thing is the purpose. You were touching on alignment earlier. How do professionals find out what their purpose is? How did you find out what your purpose is?
That is an excellent question that I wish we were born just knowing our purpose. Life would be so much simpler. I speak to so many people and they're like, I'm in my 50s and now I think I know what to do. Like, it's never too late, but wouldn't it just be so much simpler if we were born? I'm like, oh, this is where I'm going one day. And
So
so,
much easier.
so much easier. Uh,
Mm,
and, again, if for those who know me, know I am a big proponent of family, and I am so thankful for the seeds and impact that my family poured into me, that
mhm.
I was able to learn a lot of these lessons early. And that's why also I feel like it's my purpose to share it because I didn't have to wait, right? So,
Right.
first with my mom in sales, but then impact and what's my purpose. So I was on, the law path. People told me I would make a great lawyer. I said, perfect, that's what I'll do. And then it was maybe the summer before I was supposed to graduate college. my
Mm-hmm.
family asks me why. And, you know, I'll give you the end and then go back and give you the middle.
Yes, please.
Your why will often lead to your purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? And so when they asked me that question, I was like, well, people told me I would make a great lawyer. And they were like, that can't be your why. That
Do
can't be
you
the
think you
sole,
make a great lawyer?
right. Right. That can't be your sole motivation
Right.
for what you do for the next, 20, 30 years. I was like, huh, great point.
Mm.
And so they set me on this journey of discovering, what actually moves you. And then once you understand what moves you, it's really important because I think oftentimes people say, this makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
But also you have to make sure what also will pay you, right? And so trying to align not only what fulfills you, but then what can pay your bills. And the good thing about that is there's a lot more options that we are just not made aware of. So, when you're intentional about figuring out your purpose, I realized very early on I like to help people. I didn't understand fully my purpose yet, but I started plugging into spaces where I could help people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more I feel like you're guided towards purpose when you work on yourself. What are your natural skill sets, right? So we all, many of your listeners, I'm sure, are very talented, very brilliant. You could probably be
Right.
successful in a lot of things, but what I think many people's key differentiator are is where they have natural skill sets. Like, where do you naturally excel at things? So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I am a people person through and through. I can connect very well with individuals and I can even connect with large spaces. And so I knew when I like to help people, I do uh, really well with communication and building
Mm.
relationships. And so once you start to build those pieces, then you can look for that career alignment. And so even though my career will continue to have shifts, I still have that North Star of like, okay, these are the key indicators that I need to look for in everything that I do to make sure that I will be successful. Because if you put me in a space where like I naturally excel, one, it doesn't feel like work. So that makes it easy.
Yes.
And then two, even let's say you're having a rough day or even a month,
Mm.
my 80% is still many people's 100% in the spaces where I naturally excel. And that is when you are aligned in purpose, when it seems somewhat like a superpower, where people, thankfully, since it is helping people, I've learned how to articulate what I do. But when you can't really place it, why this works so well, and people are like, how does she do what she does? And you're just like, I don't know, but I love it. Then you're in your purpose. And so,
Mm-hmm.
try to work on yourself and then you can figure out where to pour into others and figure out what spaces to pour into. But I think it really starts with self. Once you know yourself, you can find your purpose.
I'm glad, first of all, that you highlighted the paycheck part because,
Mm.
that's what a lot of parents' concern is. Oh, my son just loves art. And you're thinking, are you going to be able to pay your rent, son?
My
It's
mom had
great that
really
you found
real
something you love. Yeah.
conversations with me early on. She was like, yeah, chase whatever dream, but make sure, you can afford the sneakers with that
Right.
dream. Like you can't just
Right.
be running. So
Mm.
yeah, but it's amazing with, you mentioned I've been able to help over 500 individuals in my career thus far. And none of their careers have like are anywhere anything alike,
Mm.
and the amount of exposure to roles that are out there, like what I do, to
Wow.
think that I would have the opportunity to help people excel in corporate America. Who knew? Like that's not something you say I want to be when I get older. So
Mm.
your dream, your purpose can likely make you money. It's just being really intentional in the spaces that you look once you figure out what you really are good at and where you naturally excel.
Mm. And that is not something, there's no degree that says help people with their careers,
Right.
bachelor's.
Yeah, right.
Right. So it was a winding road. It was something that you eventually got to on your way to your purpose. And then let's just also on the purpose part. Here's the
Mhm.
thing. So you said you knew that you wanted to help people. with your communication skills and you were good at relationship building.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people who suggested that you go to law school, if you think about it, when you're a lawyer, typically you help people. Obviously, there are
Right.
outliers, but
Yeah.
that's a different story. So you help people, you communicate in court while
Mm-hmm.
you're defending your client. And then the relationship building part, yes, you build relationships with the client, you keep the confidences and things like that. So in a way, I think that they notice that about you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those are all the the traits, the skills that you need in
Right.
order to make a great lawyer.
Lawyer, absolutely, because there's still people that tell me you should go back to law, like you should go to law school.
Even today?
And oh yeah, even today, literally, if people in my organization, like you
Oh
want to go
wow.
to law school, and I think to that piece where I have certain components, but it wasn't until I was on that path and realized lawyers spend a lot of their time writing, researching things that all those, those are the things that don't really fill my cup.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to keep as close to purpose as possible where you're never going to love 100% of what you do, but my goal is to love at least 70%, right? And so
Yes.
oftentimes those are the people that suggest that I go to law school and pursue becoming a lawyer don't really understand what a lawyer is. They just see like what's on TV, of course, like, oh yeah, the briefest part, the defending, your
Suits
clients and
is
all.
really entertaining. It made a lot of
Right,
people think
yes.
they wanted to go to law school
Right. They're
and
like,
be
only do
Harvey
that part.
Specter.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes, TV does tend to glamorize a lot of things which don't necessarily translate into real life. Now let's
Very.
talk of, so you said you need to know your purpose. Is there an exercise? Is there something you can do in order to have that clarity about your purpose so that you are more confident in stepping into it because you
Yeah,
understand yourself enough?
yeah. I so people can come to this conclusion in many different ways. So what I would say where I have people start is going back to what do you enjoy? What do you naturally excel at? What if you weren't getting paid? What could you do for the rest of your life? And if it's a short list, top 5. And it can be as complex or as vague as possible, like as you make it. When I just started like helping people, that was very vague.
Mm,
You can help people in so many ways, but have a list. And then thankfully with technology, you can put that right into an AI and say, okay, here are the things that I naturally excel at. Here are things that naturally fill me. What career options are there? And
right.
this is great, even if you are in your purpose and you want to make a career pivot. There's so often people come to me and, they are like, I have no transferable skills. Yes, you do. Because
You'd be
again,
amazed, especially since we talk about soft skills. Even
yes,
I've uncovered some that I didn't know. Hey, wait a minute, this is transferable, and I can,
yes,
yeah, I can change
absolutely
careers. You'd be amazed.
amazed. Absolutely. Yeah, you would completely amazed. There's so
Mm,
often I hear people's stories and about their careers. And I'm like, I could do that. I'm like, I've never heard of this before, but I'm like, that sounds like something I could do.
right.
So, and that's one of the wonders of now having technology, this type of technology at your fingertips. Once you have that list and, have that real conversation, it's important because sometimes we're just like, oh, we think about in the back of my mind, what will make me the most money? You are more inclined to make more money when you're good at something, one, and then it naturally fills you because you're going to put in the extra time. Having conversations like this, I can do it from sun up to sundown and
Mm.
still have energy. So,
Because you're enjoying yourself.
right, absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. So I'm like, when you find those things, money will come. So have that real conversation with yourself outline that list. I wouldn't do anything too long because then you're probably going to confuse the AI. But maybe, top five
Mhm.
of some things that could naturally fill you, you naturally excel at. And if you weren't being paid, you can show up in this way for the rest of your life. Once you have that list, you can plug it in and just say, what career options? And then research. There's podcasts, listen to people that work in that space, right? So often I'm doing, like, anytime I'm interested in an industry, I hop on and listen to a podcast and I'm like, oh, okay, learn the ins and outs, right? Because it's important to not just look at what is glamorized, because then you might end up again as a lawyer.
And thinking
So,
it's TV, that's right.
right, exactly. And then you're like, wait, how'd I get here? And so once you have your list, do your due diligence. Look up, what it really will entail, hear other people's experience. And then you can naturally start building those tools. Oftentimes people think they need to enter into that space before they build in tools necessary to be successful. When I was working in clean energy, I was ready working on the skills that I needed to be in the role that I currently am in. Like, volunteer, people are always looking for people to give back their time. Figure out what courses you can do. I have a natural entrepreneur spirit. So
Mhm.
create your own thing. If you can't do it right now, if no one's looking for it, create your own thing. If you know, okay, this is where I'm trying to go to, try it out. And then talk to other people in that space of saying, like, am I on the right path? So that, one, it shows initiative, and then shows, do you have the true desire to continue to work on whatever that skill, or be in that space that you think you want to be in. And I think that would be a great way to step into your purpose, right? Start on that journey to really making sure you find your purpose and then stay in your purpose.
Right. Because this is something you can always work on, even if you are at
Right.
the job that you're not excited about right now. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that you can do after hours and start working towards that. Is there an age limit? Is there, because you have retirement age, is there an age where you think, it's a little too late for this person to start pivoting and taking detours and changing careers?
I honestly have a little bit of a controversial thought around this. I think it is better to, if what you are doing no longer fulfills you, it is better to leave and open up this seat for the someone that work does motivate and fulfill them, and you find your next thing. I think so often, we have a lot of people at the top of organizations that are just there because they're scared to find something else.
Mm.
But what would our society look like if you didn't feel like it was too late to start over? I think honestly, then you will only have the people, one, who are motivated, capable, and excited about that work in those spaces. And,
Right.
so often those are the people leading the organization. Then you talk to them and they're like, yeah, no, I'm here because it's too late to leave. That's a little nerve-wracking. But so I would say definitely, if you are no longer motivated and you no longer feel that you're in your purpose, and sometimes life can happen to you where your purpose completely shifts. I know for me, when I became a mom, I had a shift in purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm now in the process of realizing, okay, how does that align to where I'm going next? But if I waited and just said, well, it's scary to move. Yes, it is. And it gets scarier the older sometimes you are. But you
Mm-hmm.
also take that wisdom into a new space that can excite you. And then I honestly feel like that's how you continue to live and are motivated, right? By what you do. It's quick story. I was just
Please do.
talking
Yeah.
to this man earlier today, and he was saying he had a marketing company for like 25 years, and randomly he switched into stem cell revigoration. And I was like,
Mm.
how? And he told his story, but it was like a kid, like in a candy store how excited he was
He
about his
found
work.
his purpose.
He found his purpose and he was doing excellent. Like he was actually one of the speakers there talking about like, it's not too late. And so I just wish more people did not feel like it was too late to switch. It is never too late, as long as you are healthy and you're probably more financially stable in a place where you can make that shift later in your career. I'd say, yeah, go for it.
Mm. It's never too late. I mean, especially now with all the options available, like you said, you can literally go to AI and say, this is what I'm good at. What are my career options? You can always switch careers. I'll be honest, I also have not been in the same industry since I left university.
Really, we are anymore. The days of like lifers,
No.
that time is over. Continue to seek your purpose and it will re-inspire you. Doing anything for 20 years, that seems daunting.
It used to be my parents' generation, yes. And then after 35 years in the same company, they get that Parker pen, the company saying thank you. And they not anymore. There's so many options, and it's now okay. It's not looked down on, because at least back then it was looked down on to switch careers, because it always looks like you're starting over.
No. And honestly, if you are a little concerned in jumping to the same level, go to a smaller company, right? Because again, you're sharing the wisdom. You have learned things again through these soft skills. You have the knowledge no matter where you pivot to that will be valuable to an organization. So if you don't want to jump from, one Fortune 500 company to the next, find, a startup or find, one of these smaller organizations where you can try things out and share your wisdom. They will be the better for it. And so will you, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because I remember I once worked with a huge company for 5 years. And then when I went to the small one, I found that my skills set was more enhanced because, in a big company, there's somebody just dedicated to the photocopy machine or,
Right.
just delivering the mail. Whereas when you work for a small company, they don't have the bandwidth to pay those kinds of people on a full-time basis. So you find that, yes, you know your job description and what you do, but there's so much more that you do as well in addition to that.
Absolutely.
And nobody thinks any task is beneath them just because of their
Mhm.
title. And I found that there's so much knowledge that I gained by being at a small company.
Yeah, no, I recommend at least, just ebb and flow, right?
Mm.
It's the I think oftentimes we glorify the big companies and that's our end goal. Like if I just make it here, I would have made it. But really I think it's about making sure your life feels fulfilled at the end of the day. And where can you really gain that fulfillment? There's times where, that Fortune 500 will give you that. But when you want to slow down but still learn, there's organizations that will allow you to do that. And nowadays, making maybe not as much, but still making very good amounts of money. So, yeah, keep your options open.
Right. Talk to us about that network of 10,000 professionals that you created or, overseeing.
Yeah. So I manage a network of 10,000 professionals. We have 1,500 executives, so at the C-suite,
Yeah.
that are a part of that, and anywhere also from early career, fresh out of undergrad. So, one, it keeps me busy. But two, it really has shown me, the sky is the limit and the power of connection. So a big part of what we do is learning and development, but also community building, right? And so
Hmm.
how are we really creating spaces for our alums to share their stories so that when people are just graduating, they don't feel like the only, or the road is too long for them to even get on it. And it has been so impactful to not only our mid to senior leaders, but also our early career of saying like, okay, I can't find a role right now, but this executive also told me, when they graduated and it was a recession and they couldn't find, and now they're there, right? And so it puts a lot of the things in perspective. And it's such an inspiring space to be a part of because people are learning, growing, and building together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unlike anything that I've ever seen outside of being in like a university, right? Where everyone's pouring into each other and the students are all there to learn and cultivate one another. But now I'm able to help people find that in just their day to day. They know there's a space they can plug into where they can find that fulfillment and gain new skill sets.
Do you find that the C-suite executives are willing to sometimes be mentors to the young ones?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yes, especially because we have such a diverse community. They know what it's like to be the one of few.
Mm,
And so they want to make sure that that changes. So they're like, let me share what worked so that not only you can get here, but you get here quicker and you don't have to go through as many of the pitfalls. And, I think it's that same um, pulling people up as you climb, right? They want to make
right.
sure that the next generation has an easier climb. And so they are very willing and often are asking us. We have the desire for more sometimes mentors than we have for mentees because sometimes when
That
you
is
know
a
we
good problem to have. I like that.
it is because
Yeah.
sometimes when you're young and scrappy, you feel like you can do anything and everything on your own. Like I will take on the world, and it's not until the world knocks you down a few times then you're like, wait, can someone tell me how to do this? So yeah, it's
Mm.
it's a it's a great problem to have.
I'm so glad that they're so willing because, obviously they're busy, they have enough on their plates, but to be willing to mentor that really means a great deal. Yes. And then you say that you also work with developing children. How do you
Yes,
have time to do all this?
that's an excellent question. And that's to my earlier point where purpose shift, right? And so I'm still very passionate about the work that I do. But when I became a mom, I realized that so many of our children
Hmm.
don't get the skills that they need to actually be successful until they graduate. Even though I'm like, we have K through 12 or, K through college,
Right.
and I'm like, what would it look like if we were pouring into them early? And this goes back to my life. I'm able to get so much further than many of my peers were because I learned those skills necessary. And so, I want to make sure that the next generation has access. So I'm actually in the process of building a learning and development platform for uh, adolescence in the moment because it's important about those soft skills. It's important to figure
Hmm.
out like how do you even start to begin to understand yourself. We live in a time that can feel very isolating. I have um, very very young babies, but I also am an older sister, and my sisters are telling me like I already feel defeated, and they are in middle school right now. So I'm like, right. But I'm like, they're like, I watch the news the news that I'm allowed to, and they tell me AI about this AI thing that's taking all the jobs. Like, they're taking your jobs. What will life be like when so kids are really smart. They are paying attention to where the world is heading, and it
Hmm.
can seem nerve-wracking, but I think it's really important to be intentional about using this technology to pour into people versus using it to exclude. So, and my sweet spot right now, especially since I became a mom, is children. How are we preparing that next generation so that they don't have to deal with the same hurdles and we can use this technology to help them figure out where they excel? Imagine a space where technology allowed you to reach your fullest potential as early as possible. The sky really would be the limit. And I
Mm.
think that's where we should be going to is investing in people versus anything else.
Right. I think the general ethos should be the technology is here to either help you with the work you're doing and make some things be done more efficiently and faster versus this fear tactic of it's going to replace your job, you're not going to have a job. Because I, I don't think that there's a point where the human part of it, it's going to be human enough. We talk about soft skills, communication skills, that it's going to be human enough to really just everything robotic around the world.
Right.
I may not be as tech savvy, but I'm not sure. So I think that these kids need to be, guided in a sense to say, hey, wait a minute, do not give in to the fear. This is
Right.
here to help you just do some of your work efficiently or let you know what other options are there in the world, but it's not going to replace you and you're suddenly not going to be able to pay your bills.
Yeah, no, we are people. I don't think there will be a time where people will prefer not to engage with people on a large scale. Like that
Hmm.
sounds, very lonely. And even when I think we all love efficiency, but there's something about human to human interaction that just I don't see being replaced.
Or if you do write a report and you ask AI to help you, you know how, if I know you long enough, I know how you sound. I know how an email or a summary from Siena is phrased versus if she just copied and pasted what ChatGPT said. It just sounds a little different, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, no, it sounds way different. I'm like, I have never heard you use any of those words a
Right.
day in your life.
Hmm.
Yeah, so no,
It
I
can give
definitely.
you the idea, but paraphrase and you make the idea your own. So, any last words of wisdom for somebody who feels that they're not happy in their careers, but they don't know what the first steps are in
Mm,
sort of like basically brainstorming and trying to see and analyze their own skill set, what their gifts, what brings
mhm.
them joy, so that they start on this path in finding
Yeah,
what they truly love and is their purpose.
yeah, no, excellent question. What I would say is don't just look at your career, look at your life. And I think that is where you'll find a lot more examples, especially, I tapped into what motivated me and made me happy even before I was pursuing a career. So, what did I enjoy doing in middle school? What did I enjoy doing in college, in high school, whatever the case may be, or
Mm-hmm.
even outside of work, right? Because a lot of times, thankfully, what I do professionally, I'm also doing outside. But figure out, do you spend a little bit extra time volunteering in certain spaces? Do you naturally gravitate to certain environments? So look at the full picture. Start to understand, like, okay, I'm naturally excited. I naturally feel a spark when I do X.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time, journal about it, figure out that why. Like, why does that excite you? It might just be the people that you're doing it with. But there's times where you can say, like, no, it doesn't matter who is there, as long as I'm doing this, I find excitement. And then that's when you start tugging at that string. Okay, so what is the essence of that? So, let's say um it's interesting. My husband's in data.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he was not paid a day in his life to research and understand how things work, he would still be doing that. So for
Wow.
him, he is naturally inquisitive. He always is connecting the dots that I don't even see. I'm just like, oh, I'm living life. And he will tell me the 10 steps I missed of like how things connected.
Wow.
So, once you start pulling at those strings, like, okay, so I love doing puzzles. I love whatever that case may be, figuring out those through lines and then start to say, what would a career in that look like? And then once you have that list, research that career is really important and say it's a major shift, right? You're in education. How do you get to data? One, you can start doing projects on your own and see like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what does entry level data entry projects look like? Is there a way I can plug into doing that in my organization? maybe you ask the tech team if they have any projects for you or whatever the case may be. And then you can volunteer. Say, are there any local shops or like mom and pop businesses that want to become more data efficient? See if you can
Right.
plug in there. There's so many spaces where you can start to gain the skills. And then, we didn't really get a chance to talk about if you have a fear of communication today, but say that's a little intimidating because sometimes it's going
Please
up to
highlight,
people.
please, yeah, take the time to highlight that point. So if you have a fear
Yeah.
of communication, because we've
So
emphasized a lot on how you sell yourself, how you use the transferable skills. So if you have a fear, okay, please carry on.
no, because oftentimes I'll talk to individuals and I see their eyes getting bigger. Like, you want me to do what? And I'm just like, okay, you don't have to start there.
Right?
I tend to be one of those people that step into the fire and I'm like, let's see if I get burned, right? And so I'm like, if you want, there's also approaches. So then you can take the more like um equally valuable, of course, the individual route where take courses, there's LinkedIn, there's YouTube, the University of YouTube,
Oh,
right? So
yes.
I am a big proponent of that, right?
There's a
There's
course for everything on YouTube.
everything, so when in doubt, go to YouTube.
Yep.
There's that path that you can also take until you gain more confidence, but I think it is exceptionally important to, if you're not ready to make the pivot, if you're not getting entryway, try to step outside your comfort zone, even if it's just a half a step, right? So I will share a very quick story. When I knew
Yes,
I
please.
wanted to help people grow in their career, I started looking for, I built a whole proposal of like what this could look like and a whole structure if an organization wanted to move in this direction. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying you have to do all of this. And then I would go to different organizations and pitch. Then eventually I was recruited by this charter school and I helped their national alumni population and build out what it would look to support their alums. And so, that's again stepping into the fire where I was like, okay, I want to understand what this looks like. I want to be able to say, can I actually teach it to others? And that's why I created the proposal and the outline of saying, like, how confident am I in this skill set? And
Right.
then I get to the part of selling it. But it doesn't have to be that large. So even if it's just one step, is there something you can do within your organization? So often you talked about how in large organizations you're only doing that one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
people still need help.
Yes.
So, ask someone in an industry that you might be wanting to pivot to if you can take on a project or get a mentor in that space, right? And talk to them and see if they know someone else. So I would say just if you're entering in a new space, get comfortable being uncomfortable first.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find that when you're into the interview, you'll be able to sell what you're trying to do a lot with a lot more confidence versus if you only did it in a silo, like you only ever talked to yourself about this, you only took online courses. It's a lot different when you're now trying to convince someone else that you can make that jump versus saying, I did this, but then I tried to see how it would be applied with this individual. They gave me feedback. I kind of going into the wild. I would suggest if you're still having trouble making that pivot after you do these courses or, you research and start to understand things online.
Very, very true. Words of wisdom from Siena Dean, the career strategist, talent development expert who has been helping us find our purpose and align with our skills and gifts. Thank you very much for all the insights you shared with us today. We really appreciate you.
It's truly been my pleasure.
Mine as well. Before you go, would you like our listeners to find you online and where?
Yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me at Sienna Dean on LinkedIn. I am always on there, always happy to have a conversation or give some advice or receive advice from you because I'm sure there are, other career experts out there in your community. So I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll learn from each other. Siena Dean on LinkedIn. I'll put that on the show notes. Thank you very much for being on our show today.
It really has been my pleasure. This was fun.
I know, it really was. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify, and stay tuned for more episodes to come.